Systemic racism, I'm switching now to talk more about what it means. It's institutional racism. It's not any one person's fault, but it's definitely not a large group of overtly racist people. That's not what it means. It's the systematic distribution of resources, power, and opportunity in our society to the benefit of people who are white and to the exclusion of people of color. Present-day racism was built on a long history of racially distributed resources and ideas that shape our view of ourselves and others. It's a hierarchical system that comes with a broad range of policies and institutions that keep it in place. These can be laws, they can be written policies, they can be unwritten policies, they can be practices, they can be legal, they can be illegal, they can be norms, they can be existing culture. I don't know if a lot of people actually know that the birth of policing in this country came from the need to keep slaves from running away and returning them. And the police is an institution. And I don't mean to single out the police here because there is evidence of this in many things. Redlining. There were actually places where black people would not be sold a house or would not be granted a mortgage or a home loan so that they would not be able to live in certain neighborhoods. And then if you look at the schools who are dependent on property taxes, and then if you look at the much lower wealth of black people, and therefore not able to own as large of houses as in nicer neighborhoods, then you can understand what's happening to their schools. And all of these things are built into our system. And all of these things are the things that black people have had to overcome and keep overcoming. And there is extensive research and data on this. Extensive. Black people make up about 13.4% of our population. If you look at Fortune 500, S&P 500 companies, in 2019, only 8.7 of CEOs, there were only 8.7% CEOs of color. In 2020, only 4. In government, there are 57 people of color. That's 11%. Earnings, blacks make 62% of what white people make. Household wealth. In 2019, white people's average household wealth is $102,000. For black people, it's $6,000. College, 35% of white people have college degrees, 25% of black people. Mortgage, blacks are denied twice as many times as white people. And that's illegal and it still happens. Home ownership, 73.7% of white people own homes. Black people, 44%. COVID is killing more black people and hospitalizing more black people than white people. Prisons, 33% of the prison population are black people. They only make up 13.4% of our population. Arrests. Black people are more likely to be arrested for drugs. They're more likely to be denied bail. They're more likely to have harsher charges for the same offenses. Black males aged 18 to 19 are 13 times more likely to be imprisoned than their white peers. Marijuana usage rates for black people and white people are the same, but 3.6 times. Black people are 3.6 times more likely to be arrested for possession. That's only a handful of the pages of data that show the disparities between black people and white people in America. The problem is that white people see racism as a conscious hate, when racism is much bigger than that. that. Racism is a complex system of social and political levers and pulleys that were set up generations ago to continue working on the behalf of whites at other people's expense, whether whites know it or like it or not. Racism is an insidious cultural disease. It is so insidious that it doesn't care if you're a white person who likes black people. It's still going to find a way to infect you and infect how you deal with people who don't look like you. Racism looks like hate, but that's just one manifestation of it. Privilege is another, access is another, ignorance is another, apathy is another, and so on. So while I agree with people who say that no one is born racist, it's a powerful system that we are immediately born into. It's a set of socioeconomic traps and cultural values that are fired up every time we interact with the world. And so that's why this resolution must address Black Americans, and it must say Black Lives Matter. Because the Black people who live in our city need to hear that from our community. They need to hear that from the people that lead this community. They need to know that we think they matter, and that every day we're going to remember that, and we're going to work for that. When I say Black Lives Matter, that doesn't mean that nothing else does and nobody else does. It means I understand that their life was far more difficult for them because of the color of their skin. That doesn't mean I haven't had my own difficulties. I have had a tough life, and I have overcome a lot of stuff, but they were never because of the color of my skin. One of my friends wrote a letter, and I want to read something to you from that. She said, when our nation's founders asserted that all men are created equal, they failed to uphold that ideal. And that left out Black women like me. But the task of making this union more perfect has been the inheritance of every American since then. And to my fellow council members, she says, you live in a time and serve in a position where you can make the union more perfect in this little corner of America. And I urge you to do so. And so I ask you, what is the purpose of this resolution? Is it to water it down and not say the tough things that need to be said? To make white people feel better? Or are we doing this to make Black people feel better and feel like they matter and that we care?